Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something absolutely fascinating and honestly kind of dark. We're looking at a simulation of what would happen if a fully engineered apex predator, think of a genetically stitched together monster like the Indominus Rex, was just dropped right into modern day Africa. Now, you might be thinking, okay, cool, a giant dinosaur tearing up the savanna. But as you'll see, it's actually a super profound look at the burden of a designed existence. Have you ever felt completely overwhelmed by sensory overload? Well, imagine that multiplied by 1,000. Let's jump right in. A civil war wrapped in bone and tissue. Think about that quote for a second, because it perfectly hits the nail on the head. It describes this creature's life from the literal second it opens its eyes. It doesn't wake up as this triumphant, unstoppable monster ready to conquer a new world. No, it's born as a victim. Imagine taking your very first breath, and instead of just taking in the scenery, your brain is instantly bombarded by contradictory commands from all these different animal genomes that were simply never, ever meant to share the same body. So to understand why this thing does what it does, we have to talk about the static. The static is this constant, agonizing sensory overload caused by its mismatched biological wiring. Here's the crazy part. Its primary drive to hunt isn't even hunger. It barely eats most of what it kills. Its entire driving force is just a desperate, instinctual need to shut off this deafening internal static. Think about being locked in a tiny room with a blaring fire alarm that you just can't turn off. That is its entire reality, and its body's only response to that torture is to lash out. Which brings us to this tragic, inescapable loop that basically defines its early life on the plains. It goes like this. Step 1. Something moves, say a zebra, triggering a wildly misfired threat response. Step 2. The creature's jaws snap shut on pure instinct. But step 3, man, this is where the tragedy really sets in. The kill actually gives it a brief silence. The screaming in its head drops to a murmur, but only for about 3 to 5 seconds, because then comes step 4. The static floods right back in. It is completely trapped in this relentless cycle, just killing over and over and over again, all to buy a few pathetic seconds of peace. Part 1. The Broken Machine, Mismatched Biology. To really get what's happening, we have to look past the terrifying exterior and focus on the fundamental breaks on the inside.
Look at this comparison. There is a massive difference between natural evolution and a designed existence. You see, a normal predator naturally evolves into its niche over millions of years, right? Its brain and body are perfectly synced up to reward it for hunting and surviving. But this creature, it was forced into existence by a committee to be a theme park attraction. So yeah, it can physically dominate its environment like an absolute boss, but it completely lacks the neurological reward system to actually process or enjoy any of it.
It's all about what's happening at the cellular level. Literally, its body has a tree frog's metabolism fighting a T-Rex's endothermic system, meaning it can't even regulate its own body temperature. It's got pit organs stolen from vipers that paint the world in glowing, inescapable heat signatures so it can't even close its eyes to find the dark. And its brain? It's in a constant 24/7 tug-of-war between raptor, crocodilian, and T-Rex instincts, issuing totally contradictory commands. Every single step and breath is a negotiation. Its body is literally at war with itself, day and night. Moving on to part 2, dominance without purpose. As the harsh African dry season rolls in, the creature reaches its full, terrifying scale. But as it gets stronger physically, its psychological state just crumbles. 15 meters. Just picture that for a second. At 15 meters long and weighing 9 tons of armor and muscle, this patchwork of engineered violence is practically unstoppable. It is awe-inspiring. It can scatter entire prides of lions and massive herds of wildebeests like they're nothing. Everything in the ecosystem either dies or immediately learns to run away. But here is the fatal flaw in its logic. As it gets bigger, the kills naturally get easier, right? It can sweep through whole herds in a single charge. But killing more doesn't work better. The silence after each kill is still exactly the same, 3 to 5 seconds. So the creature starts forming this flawed hypothesis in its broken mind. It thinks, hey, maybe if I kill something truly massive, something that actually matches my own size, I might finally get some permanent quiet. And this builds to the ultimate climax of its hunting phase, a showdown with a 5,000-kilogram bull elephant. The elephant is guarding a shrinking waterhole during the brutal dry season, and it's literally the only animal in the entire ecosystem that refuses to back down. Instead, it charges right back at the monster.
The clash is absolutely spectacular, but it's over fast, generating an insane 57,000 newtons of bite force, which, by the way, is the highest ever measured for any land animal. The creature's jaws completely crush the elephant's spine. The elephant goes down like a ton of bricks. Our engineered predator has secured absolute dominance over the ecosystem. No doubt about it. Nothing on the continent can stop it.
But look at this number. Despite the massive scale of that kill, taking down the biggest animal out there, the reward is a pathetic 3 seconds. 3 seconds. Just 3 seconds of silence before that agonizing static floods right back in. The screaming in its head doesn't care about scale. It doesn't care about dominance. Which brings us to part 3. The mind unravels. This totally empty victory triggers a dark realization in whatever is left of its mind. Because the killing doesn't work. And without killing, it has absolutely no clue what it's supposed to do. So it starts doing these things that, to us, might look like normal territorial habits, but they aren't. It returns to the same waterhole just to stare at its reflection, because seeing itself makes the static feel a little further away. It obsessively arranges the bones of its kills into parallel lines in the dirt, just forcing its brain to focus on one single task. Kind of like how we humans lean on rigid routines when we're super stressed, right? It even seeks out the calming scent of a specific acacia tree at night, because something in the bark soothes its scrambled senses. It's desperately trying to build a routine to survive its own mind. And the tragedy really peaks here. The thing hunting everything is also running from something, and that something is itself. As the waterhole dries up and its reflection fades away, it hits this wall. The silence it's been relentlessly chasing, it simply does not exist. It realizes it's the one being hunted now, and it can't outrun the hunter because it is stitched into every single cell of its own body. Part 4. The final quiet. As the rains finally come back to Africa and the ecosystem resets, bringing life back to the plains, the creature's engineered body begins to fail. We can literally see it fall apart. Its joints and cartilage just give out because, well, Giganotosaurus vertebrae were never meant to connect with T-Rex muscles. Its oversized heart, which was shoved into a chest cavity that doesn't quite fit, starts skipping beats. The kidneys begin to fail under the strain. But ironically, as the physical machinery pulls apart, the deafening static in its head actually starts losing its volume. And this leads to a profoundly melancholic shift. That frantic, relentless drive to kill, it just fades. The creature stands there in the early morning light and literally watches herds of wildebeests and zebras flee, and it doesn't give chase. It lets a lone elephant stare at it and then just turn away. It is an incredible moment. Prey animals walking away, not because they're faster, but because the ultimate predator just let them go. The itch has finally lost its grip. Resting in its hollow beneath that soothing acacia tree, the creature finally stops fighting. Time, which used to be this thing it frantically hunted through, now just passes softly. That haunting question of what am I finally fades into the background. It stops asking the unanswerable and simply exists, accepting that it was built from pieces that just don't fit in a world that has no place for it. As the sun sets, painting the sky in colors the creature has no names for, its heart skips for the final time. The noise doesn't fade out, it just stops. This civil war in its brain simply turns off. It's not a victory. It doesn't feel like winning. It is just the sudden, profound absence of pain as the machinery finally shuts down. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final thought. When we engineer existence for entertainment, we rarely think about the internal burden we place on that life. For this ultimate predator, peace wasn't dominance. It wasn't about surviving the harsh African landscape. True peace was simply getting tired enough to let go and finally stopping the search. Thank you so much for exploring this with me.